Welcome to this European Innovation Council podcast series where we delve into the world of deep tech innovation. In this episode, we will discuss the newly launched EIC Pre-Accelerator, which is specifically designed for early stage deep tech companies from what's known as EU widening countries. What is an EU widening country, I hear you ask? Well, widening countries are those that the EU aims to integrate more fully into research and innovation activities because they have a lower level of performance in these areas compared to other EU member states. Now, support for innovators from widening countries has grown in recent years, with the EIC Accelerator experiencing a 6% rise last year. And this EIC Pre-Accelerator call aims to further boost the innovation potential in widening countries by helping high-potential deep tech startups to secure funding from different sources. Here with us today to talk more about this call is Ana Barjasic, founder and CEO at Connectology. She's also an EIC board member and a strong advocate for EU widening countries. We also have Angela Ivanova here. She is co-founder and CEO at LAM'ON, an EIC-supported sustainable packaging company based in Bulgaria, which is an EU widening country. And we also have Luka Zupančič from Slovenia, another EU widening country. Luka leads EIC-supported projects pioneering the use of DNA as a sustainable digital data storage medium to address the looming global data storage crisis. Thank you very much to the three of you for being here. So my first question is for Ana. Ana, as an EIC board member, you likely have an inside view as to all things to do with this call. Can you tell us a little bit more about the call itself, including why it has been launched and what it will provide deep tech startups in the region?
So basically, the EIC Pre-Accelerator is a 20 million euro call, has a deadline to apply on the 18th of November. And really, it's a support for deep tech companies coming from the widening countries of up to 500,000 euros. Of grants, but also access to business acceleration services like coaching, pitching events, and so on, as well as the fast track for the EIC Accelerator. So basically, it's kind of a comprehensive package which we aim to help and further support the companies coming from the widening countries in order to be more competitive and participate in a greater number in terms of the companies, but also the budget allocated to companies coming from the widening countries in all instruments, basically by the EIC, but specifically also EIC Accelerator. So the idea for the Pre-Accelerator came from the fact that we never really see more than 6 to 7% when it comes to the EIC Accelerator instrument in terms of participation of the companies coming from the widening countries. In some other instruments, we see higher percentages, but basically this is something that we looked into in detail in the board. And one of the elements that we worked on specifically is the aspect of funding. So the EIC Pre-Accelerator is the result of the work where we found that there needs to be a little bit more funding specifically allocated to deep tech companies from the widening countries. But we also looked into other issues. So this is not going to be a silver bullet when it comes to increasing the participation. We said we would like to see 15% of companies in terms of participation in the EIC instruments, but also in terms of the budget. We are quite far from that when it comes to certain instruments. So basically, this is why we came up with the EIC Pre-Accelerator. We worked on other aspects, like, for instance, we came up with the Code of Conduct for Consultants. We've done a bias study together with the London School of Economics and Political Science. And in general, we've done a number of things, but this one specifically focuses on the funding aspect.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ana, for the insight. And next question is for Angela. Can you tell us a little bit more about your road to receiving EIC support and how has EIC support impacted your company?
Well, greatly is the short answer. Overall, the journey to the EIC was a turning point for our company. As a deep tech company working on bio-based and compostable packaging films, we've spent over 6 years in R&D, overcoming countless technical and financial hurdles. Applying to the EIC Accelerator itself was a learning point and a process for us. We had a key partners here in Bulgaria, the Enterprise Europe Network representatives. They played important role in our preparation. They provided guidance during the application process. They helped us navigate the complexities of presenting such innovation in a way that can speak both technically and, of course, business. Winning the EIC support gave us not just the capital to scale, but also access to top-tier mentoring, business acceleration services, and overall stage to tell our story. This really helped us bring PECON, which is the packaging film line, to the market and expand our production capacity with the factory that we have here in Sofia, Bulgaria, based now here. Overall, it was a vote of confidence for us. It attracted additional private investors and strategic partners currently, which is very, very valuable. At this point, I'm turning my head, coming from Bulgaria, where access to deep tech funding is still very limited. This was very, very crucial point for us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Angela. And just to refer to your last point that access to funding is quite difficult, do you think then that this EIC Pre-Accelerator call, especially for deep tech startups in widening countries, will be well received by startups similar to yours?
Absolutely. I mean, across the widening region itself, there is no shortage of brilliant technical founders. We see more and more upcoming in the past years. Many struggle to find investor and to prepare for investor readiness and for market access because it's hard for them to, let's say, frame their innovation for a global impact. The accelerator will fill a gap, I'm thinking, that will help actually the startup to be able to translate better their technology into a compelling business. And I really believe in my perspective and in my experience, I know that it's very critical to be able to navigate innovation with success, depending on the ability to be, again, able to translate it in front of investors and corporates confidently.
And same question to you, Luka. As a biotech leader and entrepreneur in Slovenia who has successfully been awarded EIC support, do you think initiatives such as the Pre-IC Accelerator focusing on widening countries only are important, and why?
Yes, absolutely. I'd say it's very relevant for countries such as Slovenia. It's actually a funny story. Just a couple of months ago at the summit, at the EIC summit, we were talking to some of the board members. And I tried bringing up an idea for, maybe more dedicated widening countries call, only to find out that it's already in the works. So I'm really, really happy. This is now formally approved. And let me try to maybe also elaborate why. Slovenia, generally speaking, has a relatively high ratio of highly educated or university educated people. And we kind of suffer from the same curse that many other European countries do, whereas we're pretty good in deep tech and in basic research, but we struggle with kind of translating this knowledge that we generate to successful business. And I see the Pre-Accelerator here as being a really good opportunity to kind of bridge this gap. And, considering that Slovenia is a very small economy, a small country, this brings along its own set of challenges as well, similarly to what Angela already mentioned. So kind of a lack of funding instruments, especially in this pre-seed and seed funding stages, and just a general lack of recognition, I would say, right? So there's not a lot of investment capital in countries such as ours. So the Pre-Accelerator here also can serve as kind of a stamp of approval for innovative companies that stem from countries such as ours, to kind of also qualify for those bigger rounds that are often needed to successfully, bring deep tech to the market.
Anna, same question to you there. I think you want to add something.
So basically, I wanted to say that we see a sufficient number of applicants coming from the widening countries, especially when it comes to the EIC Accelerator. However, we don't see this conversion in actual funding awarded. So the reason also for this pre-accelerator to come about is basically to have, let's say, a step before companies actually come into the EIC Accelerator to make sure that they have worked on their investment readiness, on their business readiness, on their technological readiness, and to be able to actually, compete and the playing field is leveled in a way that they are successful or even more successful in all of the steps of the EIC Accelerator competition, basically.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ana. And I'd like to ask the three of you, what advice would you give to companies considering applying for this EIC Pre-Accelerator call? What specifically, Ana, I'm going to direct this one at you. What are you looking for in applicants to this call?
So I think, first of all, it's very important that it's a really interesting innovation or an innovative solution that is backed by IP, that has a freedom to operate statement, that it's not something that, a lot of different competitors are doing in different markets, but it's something unique or a first mover kind of a solution in the market. And it's basically, when you look at the call, and more information can be found in the Widera work program, the criteria for selection resemble basically the EIC Accelerator criteria. So we are looking for excellent innovations, for impact, for good implementation. And I think, it's really important that companies that apply take this seriously, and we would like to see this funnel of a number of companies coming into the EIC Accelerator, because in my view, this is a very important and a very strategic pilot project, because if it is successful and we see indeed more companies that are excellent from the widening countries in this call, then we will, lay out the foundations for more calls like this. So I think it's very important that we have really good companies applying that are taking this competition seriously. So not people that are interested just in grant funding, and taking advantage of another EU call. So this is really preparing you to be in the league of the best in Europe, and hopefully also securing later on EIC Accelerator funding.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ana. I'll redirect this question towards you, Luka. What was it that you think made you stand out as an entrepreneur who does now receive EIC funding? And what advice, therefore, would you give potential applicants who are considering applying for this Pre-Accelerator call?
So I'm going to piggyback from what Ana said. I think it's very relevant. So in my experience, also, actually, lots of companies apply, but aren't very successful. So they tend to take some sort of shotgun approach, where they try out different grants, but they don't really prepare really well for any of them. And I think it's really important to see, before you apply, to see if there's a fit with your project and what the EIC is looking for. So I try to give my advice in the form of maybe 3 questions for the companies that I speak with. The first one is, do you have an impactful project or an impactful story, right? So in other words, are you developing something disruptive, or is it more of an incremental improvement, right? Nothing wrong with incremental improvements, but be aware that the EIC is looking for really disruptive stories, right? So also, is this only going to affect your local economy, or is it a global solution? And does it have the wow factor, right? So does it really spark interest when you talk to people, right? Or is it very niche? And coming back to your question, Aoife, I think this was one of the main kind of benefits of our project. It really usually sparks interest in the people we talk to. The second question is, do you have traction, right? So one thing is to have a cool idea, a good project, but it's important to show that your solution does solve needs and that there are buyers for that project. So really make sure to show traction. And the last question or kind of tip is have a winning team, right? So make sure that the team that's on board is committed, that it fills the gaps in terms of competencies, that there is chemistry, especially in calls where there is the interview step. Make sure that the chemistry of your team shows. And maybe as a final bonus tip, I always say, try to invest in, preparing a well-written and coherent application, and, kind of save the reviewers the hassle of reading through the typos and things like that.
Very good. Thank you very much, Luka. And you're speaking quite positively about the EIC there. Would you also advise people to apply for EIC support? Has it been a positive experience for you now as a beneficiary?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've won both the Pathfinder and the Accelerator, so it allowed us to develop our technology to a stage that I don't even imagine how we could otherwise. So absolutely, it's been a great experience and opened many doors for us. But having said that, we are a very deep tech project. We're doing a breakthrough, so we basically tick all the boxes to the questions that I mentioned before, right? So if you see yourself in that format or in those requirements set out by the EIC, definitely go for it, because it can really propel your technology and your company further.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luka. And back to you, Angela, with the same question. What advice would you give deep tech startups considering applying for this EIC Pre-Accelerator call or EIC support more generally?
Yeah, well, it's hard to add upon all of that has been said already. But yeah, well, you have to be open for feedback for sure, because we actually applied 2 times and we got into the EIC Accelerator the 3rd time. So don't be afraid to fail, even from once. Probably there will be another call in a couple of months. So try again later if anything doesn't happen, and use the Pre-Accelerator to sharpen the business model, to understand the EU level opportunities even better, and of course to expand the network beyond the market, because overall the EIC ecosystem it's not just something that is giving you money. It is of support that you can use for the market and market entry and beyond, actually. So yeah, for sure, take advantage of everything that's around you. Investors, partners, policymakers will be in the ecosystem, and it will help you better position your company to scale in impact, for sure.
Fantastic. And just honing in again on that point, especially for EIC awardees, Angela and Luka. We know that the EIC offers grants often, but there are also a lot of other types of support that come with the EIC, such as business acceleration services of various forms. Have you availed of these additional services with the EIC? And if so, what has your experience been? I'll go to Luka first with this.
Yeah, we're actually very active, especially with the business accelerator services that are offered and some of the other incentives. For example, we just now started the Spin for EIC program, so we try to be as engaged as possible. So, just generally speaking, having business training and business support, I think, has been very valuable and is useful for countries in our region, I would say generally. And yeah, our experience so far has been really positive. That's why we continue to take advantage of those opportunities.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luka. Angela, over to you.
Yeah, same goes to us. I mean, we still have a couple of hours actually with the business acceleration services. We took advantage of the coaching, and especially when it comes to go-to-market and different strategies in different regions, because they are different in the sense of policies, especially when it comes to bioplastics, which is our topic. So we took advantage of that. And as I mentioned in the beginning, from the EEN network as well, when it comes to the application process. So we are super thankful for the entire opportunities that has been given around the EIC ecosystem again.
Thank you very much, Angela. And just a final chance to offer some ideas or a little brainstorming. Is there anything else, and Anna, I'll direct this to you first, is there anything else on the horizon for EU widening countries when it comes to the EIC? And for Angela and Luka, if you have any ideas here of what more the EIC could be doing for deep tech startups in your region, please feel free to come in with those.
Well, I think here it's important to state that, as the famous phrase goes, it takes 2 to tango. So on one hand, the EIC can do a lot and is doing a lot already, not only for, companies in non-widening countries, but also in the widening countries. We still have a long way to go to reach the 15% of participation and the budget that the EIC board would like to see. And as I mentioned earlier, we have been working already for years now, really creating support for the companies, helping the ecosystems, designing calls as the EIC Pre-Accelerator, launching code of conduct for consultants, doing all these bias studies and things like that. However, there needs to be support on the national level as well. And the countries also need to step in because there is so much that we can do on our side, right? So it's really important that the countries themselves also understand the importance of the EIC and how relevant is and how strategic it is to support deep tech companies on a national level as well, because, understanding of that varies across the member states. And I've been really in touch repetitively with all of them. So I have had this, firsthand experience. It's really important that, countries also invest more into research and innovation. It's important that we have qualified and motivated NCPs that we can, contact with when we have calls as the EIC Pre-Accelerator. And only when everyone does their part, we are going to have a good collaboration between all the stakeholders and then this pipeline of companies that oftentimes we say nowadays in Europe, or people say, well, there is not enough companies in this and that country. I strongly disagree with that. I think we have at least a couple of companies in each, especially widening country, because I think widening countries are probably produce some of the most resilient entrepreneurs in Europe. And, it's definitely not true that there is no deep tech companies that can be competitive enough for the EIC Pre-Accelerator or the EIC Accelerator, but we have to streamline that pipeline in a way that it works for all of us. So there is a lot of things to do. There's a lot of players in the market that have to do their part. I think EIC has already done a lot and is doing a lot. And of course, we want to do more, but it's just one piece of the puzzle.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ana. And Angela, is there anything you'd like to come in with here on this?
Well, yeah, we've been discussing actually already a more direct engagement when it comes to the local ecosystems, but I'm guessing that this is a process and it's been on the table for quite a while now. So I think that steps are being making. The EIC is making a lot. I know it's we are on the positive note here, but I see it and I see the change, and more people in Bulgaria as well are super aware of all the opportunities that are coming from the EIC. So I already see that there are changes in that direction to be more widely spread and known in the widening countries.
Fantastic. Thanks, Angela. And Luka, I'll leave the final word to you. It's not very PC, but is there anything else you'd like to see from the EIC in support of widening countries?
I mean, I think the Pre-Accelerator is really a great first step. And I can very much relate to what Ana said in terms of, both the EIC and the countries need to collaborate. And what I'm seeing, at least so far, is really a lot of engagement in Slovenia. And there's been workshops, almost every week on the Pre-Accelerator and also the other EIC grants. So I must really commend this. So I'm really, really looking forward, and I really hope that this pilot with the Pre-Accelerator goes well and that it's very successful, because like Ana said, this will hopefully open options for future collaborations even on a larger scale for our economies.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to the three of you. That's all we have time for today. The call is open from now until the 18th of November. So if you are a deep tech startup in one of the EU widening countries, please check it out on the EIC website. I'd like to again thank Angela, Ana, and Luka for being here with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to all our listeners out there. Until next time.